What is up, everybody? Garrett the Trash Man Larson here. You're listening to Trash Talk, and we have got a gangster on with us today. Johnny, what's up, buddy?
Oh, not much. Not much. Just here to have a good time.
All right, that we will have, and we'll drop some knowledge, I'm sure, dude.
Let's hope so.
So, first of all, we got to thank our sponsor, Larson Waste. Why don't you tell us about Larson Waste? Share some thoughts on Larson Waste, John.
Dude, my favorite memory of Larson Waste growing up is the old roll-off pool for the 24th of July road. That right there. I remember all the time like, oh, Dad, when are we going to get a roll-off and make it a pool?
Which reminds me, I've got something to ask you about the rodeo, because you're still on the rodeo board, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, I got a bone to pick with you after this podcast.
Okay, I'm head of sponsorships.
Oh man, I really got a bone to pick with you then. All right, so yeah, Larson Waste is just so awesome to make pools out of their roll-offs. That's truth. So we should probably do that again. Snap some pictures now that Instagram is a thing, because it was not a thing back when we were doing that.
No, that was in the good old days.
Oh man, that was a good time. So anyway, Larson Waste, thank you for sponsoring the podcast. John, thank you for being here. Let's jump into our rants, which you're going to do first because you said you got a good one. So real quick, for those that maybe didn't listen to the first time, share what you do and who you are, and then roll into your rant.
Okay, so my name is John Ballard. I am owner, operator, chief cook, and bottle washer of Ballard Senior Home Care. We provide in-home services to seniors across the whole White Mountains of northeastern Arizona, and our goal and mission is to help seniors be able to stay in their homes as long as possible, make sure that they're well taken care of and safe. And so it's a pretty cool thing that we get to do. We get to serve the greatest generation alive, in my opinion, of people who have done a lot of good for our country, and we're super appreciative of them and all that they've done, and we love serving them. They're fun, except for when we have dumb things happen.
Well, it sounds like you got some clarity around that.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I had an experience where I saw a thing that a photographer put together about that real quick, and we've shared it on all of our social media, so if you want to look it up, it's at Ballard Senior Home Care, B as in boy, A-L-L-A-R-D, Senior Home Care spelled out, of a photographer that took pictures of seniors looking in mirrors in different places where someone would typically have a mirror in their home, and in the reflection was their younger self. And in these reflections were firefighters, police officers, Navy officers,
World War II vets,
nurses that, you could tell had just been taking care of someone on the battlefield and stuff like that, and it really kind of gave a perspective of, it was kind of a wake-up call of like, hey, the people we take care of now, they may be a shell of themselves now of what they were, but before we have no idea what they've contributed to the world.
Dude, I love talking to old people. Like, man, they say the coolest stuff. They've got the best stories. Like, yeah, it's cool. It's super cool what you do, man.
Yeah.
And let's just throw this out there. You've got a few side hustles under your belt too, don't you?
Yeah. I'm one of those people that's not smart enough to say no to a good opportunity, and so I flip homes on the side, mostly because it just makes sense to me. Grew up in construction and been doing that, and I like to help, as I just told you, with our local 24th of July Pioneer Days celebrations, which is kind of a big deal. The population of Snowflake Taylor area about quadruples in a weekend.
Yeah, buddy, a lot of trash to be hauled.
Mm-hmm. And so we do that, and so yeah, I try to stay busy, which good. I sometimes stay too busy.
Well, dude, you're all primed up. Roll into your rant now.
So my rant for right now is, I'd have to say, if you know someone knows how to do their job, trust them. If someone knows how to do their job, let them do their freaking job. and if they know what they're talking about, believe them. Okay? Don't try and tell someone about something that they know way more than you about, because it just is super frustrating for that person. It drives me nuts. I've been in this for a while now, and I've got a lot of experience. We've taken care of a lot of people, and I have seen more crazy situations than I care to talk about. And we know how to deal with those things. And when people don't trust that you know how to deal with the situation, it just creates conflict, and it creates mistrust in between everybody, and it's just bad news bears. And so that's my rant today is freaking, if someone does something for a living and they are an expert at that, freaking trust them.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing, and they know how to solve the problems that you have in whatever that may be.
Listen to John, gosh dang it. He knows what he's doing.
Anyways, yeah, that's my rant. It drives me nuts when someone will trust us for a little while, and then they'll have one little hiccup, and we'll tell them, okay, just be patient, we will fix your problem for you. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't trust you all of a sudden when we've already fixed a ton of problems for you. It's like, guys, come on.
Yep, I've seen it.
It's not our first rodeo.
Awesome, man. Well, rolling into my rant, I had an experience with a mentor last week where I'd requested some time with this mentor and thought I had this really good story. Like, sounds so good to me of like these issues I'm having and why those issues were real and why it was a real thing, and like, man, I really like made this good story that was like, yeah, he's gonna be like, yeah, that's a tough situation you're in, like, ooh, give me some advice. You know, this is all kind of subconscious happening, but like that's what was really going on. And so I get on a call with him, you know, we're FaceTiming, and I'm like, hey, like, here's my story, laid it out. And man, was he's like, if I was with you, I'd shake you. And man, he was able to shake me through the phone. He was like, listen, Garrett, it's time for you to put your big boy pants on, and this time, keep them on. Like, put them on and go take care of the freaking business that you've got to take care of. Like, you've got these responsibilities, go handle it. And man, I think sometimes we just need people to shake us like that. And sometimes we need to do that to people. And I know times where I felt I need to do it with a person, and you have to build the equity in the person.
Yeah,
like,
you have to. Yeah.
I knew the person I was speaking with loved me, wanted the best for me, and was there to help me. So if you've got that equity in a person, I know for myself, lots of times I've been afraid to do that because you don't want to say something the person doesn't like, yada, yada, yada. And what I can say to that is like, man, what a gift it was for him to not buy into my crap that I had spun up and told. It was like, that's all just a story, Garrett. Like, shut up, put on your big boy pants, and go get it done. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. And so, one, be humble enough to take that, and two, don't be afraid to give that out. Like I said, if you've built the equity in that person, that you can deliver that in a way that they know that it's being delivered because you love them and want the best for them.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience for me.
Just quick thing I wanted to say on that is I've had a similar situations where like I thought a problem was a big problem, and then when I said it out loud to somebody, I was like, ah, shit, that's really not that big of a problem. Son of a gun! Oh,
man, I'm a real whimper. I need to just handle this. Like, it's so funny how things are that way. Like, when we're able to be awake to what's really going on in almost any situation, it's like, oh, like, there's two guys here that like see something different. Like, that's the situation. Like, but you might spin it up of like, oh, it's me and this good friend, and we disagree, and we're never gonna agree, and we're never gonna be friends anymore, and like, I'm gonna like, his family will die, or like, you know, you just build this huge story when you can be awake enough to be like, oh, it's two guys that like just see something different, and then you can speak to that, and usually it's handled.
Yeah.
So, yeah, one, don't get too spun up, and two, take the advice of the experts, like John said. So, rolling into our podcast. So, I sat down with John and I was like, John, what do you think we should podcast about? Because John is someone that I look up to because he spends so much time and so much effort going and being with people that he believes he can have a valuable relationship with. Like, I've seen you do that, and I think that's such an amazing thing how you do that. And so I'm like, John, you're out there doing that all the time. What do you think we can talk about on this that would serve the entrepreneurs that listen to us, the trash company owners that listen to us, and just the hustlers that listen to us? Like, what would serve that? And John came up with this concept of not making decisions out of fear. And you spoke that you've got some experience in that. So why don't you kind of frame that up and tell us what you mean by that one?
I think the biggest part of that is that a lot of it comes from how I was raised, in a sense of, and it's kind of twofold, of making a lot of fear-based decisions in life, and also having I think that also goes along with a scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I think those two go in just about anybody's world. They go hand in hand. If you're making fear-based decisions, you're probably going to be small-minded in something as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was raised in a sense that way. I love my parents. I couldn't have asked for better parents, but that was just the world we grew up in, and that's how my parents were raised in a lot of ways.
So what did that look like? Did that look like save because there's always going to be a rainy day around the corner and everything's going to go to crap? Or did that look like don't ever take on any risk because you might lose something that you've already worked for? Or like, can you put a little bit more language to what being raised in a scarcity mindset looked like?
A little bit of both. A lot of it was hey, never spend any money on things, save every last penny. The only way you're ever gonna get anywhere is if you save your way there.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, yes. And then a lot of it was, don't take risks, don't do the big thing. Slow and steady wins the race, which part of that is true, and in ways I can still agree with that perspective. But a lot of it was hey, don't put yourself out there too far, or else you're going to get burned. And if the biggest thing I've learned is getting burned is the quickest way to learn.
Yeah.
Like, you need to fall in love with failing.
I like that.
Like, I've learned that, like for example, I told you that I flip houses on the side. Like, if I do something wrong, and when I flip a house and I could have saved money and done it in less time, I'm freaking pumped.
Yeah.
Because I figured that out.
Yeah. Yeah. And what that makes me think of, and take note of this, Trey, so we can come back and I'll put it in an Instagram link of who it is, because I don't remember what his name is, but there was a guy back in the 80s, and it's been reintroduced to me through Ontacore, of something that's called Already Always Listening. And the guy that introduced that to kind of the world, and I believe it was in the 70s or 80s, was the idea of like, we always have a idea or like an opinion about something. And he just wrapped that into a listening. And so how this relates is like, so people with money, like, sounds like to me that like your parents viewed money as like, oh, it's a scarce thing, so you have to save it because you're only going to get so much in life, and so you save what you can to make sure that you're okay, because eventually it will stop, or at any time it will stop, or whatever. And so what I would say is like that already always listening is that thought of money like is scarce.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get money. That's a listening that I think most everyone in the world has.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really hard to make money.
Oh, absolutely.
And it takes X, Y, and Z, like whether that's hard work, whether that's sacrifice, whether that's that. Like, those may or may not be true, but what I would encourage people to do is challenge those. Like, something that I've always seen in my life is I've always had this idea of it takes a lot of hard work to make money. And I've just operated that way. I've never questioned it, but if anybody makes money fast or in a way that seems like it didn't take an enormous amount of effort, I was always like, oh, they must be a scamster, that's not real, that's not happening that way. You have to put years of hard work, sweat and tears, and you have to work 18 hours a day to make money. Now that may or may not be true, but I didn't even have an opening for the opportunity over here that it might not be true. Because there's people out there that go make a bunch of money in the stock market, and it doesn't take much work.
Yeah.
You know, like whether that's good or bad or ugly, like the reality is there's people that like have done that.
And that's their perspective, whereas in your perspective is it takes, all that long, hard work. That's just a perspective.
So I would never have the opportunity to make money in an efficient way if I don't challenge that listening I have of, hey, it takes a lot of time and a lot of hard work to make any money. Which, there's good, bads, I could talk circles around that, but like that just was present for me when you were saying that's kind of how you had viewed the world, that like you were raised and that was scarce. You had a listing that like there wasn't always a ton of money to be made, that you had to be careful and not, you had to be, really, really careful about taking on any risk.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what you would say was a fear-based decision.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And then once I became an adult, I started realizing like how many of my decisions were fear-based in the fact of like, I'm not gonna do this because I feel like I might be afraid I'm gonna fall flat on my face, or I'm gonna fail and lose all my money and have to start from scratch again.
Uh-huh.
And once I realized that like that's okay to do that, and you're still gonna come out in some way ahead, and that I just need to be okay with the failure and accept it and learn from it and like relish the failure, like a light bulb went off in my head of like, dude, I can do anything.
Yeah, I can.
Like I might fail a ton of times before it, but once I put my mind to it, I know I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what's his bucket? Thomas Edison. He says, I didn't fail 10,000 times in creating a light bulb. I just figured out 10,000 ways how to not make a light bulb.
Yeah. So how would you balance that, like fear with reason? Because you want to be responsible, right? And like think things out, like, okay, here's what could happen and what couldn't happen, basically make a cost benefit fit analysis.
Exactly.
So how do you manage those two?
Sometimes, and I by no means profess to have this figured out. I'm just starting to see the good results from doing this in my life, and that's why it's been on my mind recently. But I would say, first ask yourself, am I making this decision out of fear, or am I making this decision for the correct reasons? And it's still good to be the devil's advocate and look at flip yourself over onto the other perspective, paradigm, whatever you want to call it, and look at it from the other side of whatever line you have drawn for yourself, and say, okay, well, I can see it from this perspective, but then let's look at it from an objective rule and say, okay, yeah, here's reasonable, but then if we get out into here, we're getting out into left field where we don't want to be. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do. I'm not saying it's the greatest way to do it, but I've found that I would much rather just make the decision, not worry about the fear, and focus on the good. Because if you focus on the good more than you do the bad, and you put forth enough action, usually the bad will still happen, but you've just put so much good into it that it just wipes it out, and you still end up ahead.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. I don't know if I explained that very well.
Well, it makes sense to me, because what I hear in that is that, well, I guess what I would say to it is I've found how often I have to be a contradiction to everything I do. Like, everything is a balance of everything. And so it's, you don't make decisions on fear, and you've got to factor everything in. And you focus on your revenue, and you don't worry about profit, and you've got to be able to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And like it's always just and so you've got to always have both, because you wouldn't want to be it wouldn't be useful to be walking around with your head in the clouds of just like, it makes me think of those people when The Secret came out, and that was all big. And if you guys haven't heard of that, I mean, I don't have anything against it. I think it's just lacking in a lot of ways, but it discusses stuff like the power of your mind. And I know when that like was really big, there were so many people that were like, yeah, I just like put it out to the universe and then it happens. And a lot of people actually got in a lot of debt from that because they were like, I'm going to be a millionaire. I tell myself that every day and I write it down, and then they went and they spent like they were millionaires. They're like, oh, like this is showing the universe that like I'm going to make it happen, so I'm just going to max out these credit cards and stuff like that. That happens to a lot of freaking people.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like, well, no, like, yeah, sure, there's no fear in that, but there's also no reason.
Absolutely.
There's no plan, no like structure to make it happen. It's just, oh, let's bounce around and go do it.
So this is an example that I use for myself, and hopefully it illustrates this point. But for example, so with my flip houses, I will be. I have a brother who is super talented, and honestly, he's done really well for himself. But in my opinion, he is the most talented out of all of me and my siblings, and probably could have been way more successful than he is. But he is on the flip side of that, where he still makes too many fear-based decisions and is too reasonable. And so he'll come over to my flip houses and he'll see something that I'm doing, and he knows way more about construction than I do. I mean, 10 times the amount about construction that I do. And when he does construction, there's good, better, and best, and then there's the level that he does it. And so, I mean, it's like up over the top. And he'll come over and he'll be like, well, why didn't you do this that way? And I said, to be honest, because I never even thought about that. And he says, well, why don't you tear it out and do it that way? And I says, because this way works. And he says, but why don't you do that? And I says, because I analyzed it. This met the need. I'm still doing an excellent job. I'm still providing a great thing, a great service for whoever is going to buy this house, and they're going to have a great home. But I just move forward and not in fear that I'm doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. And guess what? You can do the same thing 10 different ways, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, 80% stuff doesn't matter.
And I think that's why he never delved in and became more successful in construction as I think he could have been, looking at him from a third person point of view. Mm-hmm. Is because he was like, well, if I'm going to do that, I have to do it 10 times better quality than everybody else, and you can't make money if you do that. Mm-hmm. And that's why, and so he never did it.
Yeah.
And when you look at the reason why he made that decision, it's fear-based.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's so funny because so many people with a lot of stuff too, like their perfection or like whatever it is to make it so it takes away the fear is an objective thing. So like someone can come in, to them that's perfect, and so there's absolutely no way whoever, say, buying the home would be unhappy with it, but it's an objective thing. Yep. So he can put his heart and soul into it, and the person comes in and objectively they don't like how that's done.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I agree with you there, man. So wrapping this up, where have you seen significant changes in your life since you've been focused on not allowing fear to drive your decisions?
So what you're asking is like, what are the differences I've noticed in my life from bettering myself and making less and less fear-based decisions? Yeah. I was talking with someone else about this the other day, and one, it's just nice not to live in a state of fear. First off, like that's a big
not
plus.
Not a worry-wart.
Yeah, not being, and I'm not saying don't worry about things. Don't be conscious of things, but like, don't sweat the small stuff. In the sense of like, be aware, but don't sweat it. Yeah. There's a big difference between that. Like, be very aware. Awareness is key to anything you're going to do in business. Like, you have to be aware. You have to see the whole picture. But don't sign your stress, your worry, and your fear to that, because then it just eats you up. Mm-hmm. And then you're sitting in bed at night, and you can't sleep over things.
Because you're worried about every little thing. And like we said earlier, 80% of things just don't freaking matter.
They really don't.
There's like 20% of things you've got to get right. You get those right, the other 80% doesn't matter.
And that's what I've been learning is like, if you just take away the fear out of a lot of those things, like it just makes life so much easier. And now I'm able to see more clearly, okay, well, these are the things I really need to do to grow my business. These are the things I need to do to be able to succeed in whatever I'm doing. And I can do it quicker. I can do it better. And it builds confidence in me. So like, now that I can sometimes make decisions without letting fear make that decision for me, it creates more confidence in myself, and that confidence in what I'm doing portrays to the people I deal with.
Yeah.
And so it affects me, and I think in a lot of different ways.
That's awesome, man. I love that, dude. That was an awesome topic you brought up today.
Thank you. I like it.
Love it, man. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Share the podcast with your friends. That would be great. John, you shared your Instagram stuff before. Anything else they can follow?
Facebook, look us up online at ballardcare.com. If you have any loved ones in the White Mountain area, let them know. We're happy to help in any way.
Awesome. And again, Garrett the Trash Man, Garett, the Trash Man, across all platforms. See what I'm up to, see what Larson Waste is up to. It'll be exciting to follow, so hop on that if you're not already following me. Peace!